The Billionaire's shocking transformation, how one black woman changed everything forever in a world where wealth shields you from the storms of reality, the sudden shattering of that bubble sent shockwaves through the creme de la creme of society. Billionaire Marcus Sterling, a man shaped by dollar signs and privilege, vanished from the glittering lights of Manhattan's elite. No more lavish parties, no more perfectly curated smiles filling the tabloids. In his place? A chilling silence that echoed through the high-rises, a growing whisper among the upper crust what had happened to him. Rumors flew like wildfire, each wilder than the last. He was a titan of finance, yet in a blink, he became a ghost. That winter night, Marcus stood in the corridor of his penthouse, heart pounding like thunder in his ears. The air was thick with a tension that seemed to coil around him. Underneath that glossy surface lay thoughts darker than the midnight sky outside. How could he face them? His reflection stared back hollow cheeks, sunken eyes, as if he had aged years in mere days. The world he once dominated felt foreign now. And the catalyst for this upheaval? A woman whose past intertwined with his in ways neither expected. Her name was Zara. A name that once lingered on the margins of his mind, now suddenly central to his chaotic existence. With skin as rich as the deepest mahogany and eyes that sparkled like stars against the blackest canvas, she carried a fire within. But it wasn't just her beauty, it was her voice, a siren-esque call of truth challenging everything he thought he knew. Their encounter was simple yet profound, two worlds colliding in a coffee shop over steaming cups. "You think money makes you worth something?" she had asked, a sly smile dancing on her lips. It rattled him, stripping his defenses. As he fought his internal demons, the whispers of the elite closed in. What a shame, how quickly he fell. "I heard he's lost everything." Each critique sliced deeper than any business deal. The tension was palpable, like the moment before a storm breaks. Would he succumb to the pressures, or would Zara's influence light a new path? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The room felt heavy as Marcus pondered his fate. Could Zara help him rise from the ashes, or was she simply a reminder of everything he had failed to value? Just as resolve started to harden in his chest, a sharp knock on the door shattered the moment. He paused, breath hitching. Who could it be? The world rolled silently behind the door, leaving his heart racing. Was it a chance to reclaim his life or another chain binding him to his past? The mystery loomed larger, and he knew his transformation was about to begin whether he was ready or not. Marcus's hands trembled as he approached the door. Was this it? The moment that would either free him or dig him deeper into despair? He paused, ear pressed against the cold wood, straining to gather information. The world beyond was a mere echo, muffled whispers sliding beneath the door as if reality itself waited with bated breath. Another knock, harder this time. His heart pounded, and the sweat began to bead on his forehead. Who is it? His voice was a rasp, a mere shadow of its usual confidence. It's Faith, came a woman's voice, almost familiar but laced with urgency. It was his assistant, a figure of the once gilded life he had so recklessly discarded. Marcus, please. Open up. He hesitated. Faith had been the backbone of his empire, but now? What could she possibly want? Was it to berate him? Her tone felt desperate. Curiosity piqued, Marcus pulled the door open, revealing a whirlwind of anxiety in a tailored suit. Marcus! She burst out, her eyes wide, darting around as if the walls had ears. You've got to listen to me, this is serious. We don't have much time. What are you talking about? He was confused, the remnants of his previous self wrestling for control. You have a meeting. A big one. Your reputation is on the line, and the hedge fund is pulling out weight, he interrupted, rubbing his temples as his thoughts raced. His entire life had been swept away in a matter of days. Was he expected to just jump back into the cutthroat game, pretending nothing had happened? Marcus. You can't afford to lose focus now. Faith's voice cut through his spiraling thoughts. Zara's been talking to people, and they're interested. They believe in you. They want to help. The mention of Zara sent a shockwave through him. Could she really be the one to help him rise again? Or was this still a part of the wreckage? Marcus took a deep breath, trying to drown out doubt. The gleam of faith reflected in her eyes told him she believed in something he couldn't yet see. Okay, I'm in. What's the plan? He asked, forcing steadiness into his voice. First, we need to get you cleaned up. You can't face them looking like this. She gestured to his disheveled appearance before pushing past him and diving into the chaos of his luxury penthouse study followed, watching her move with purpose. And Zara? He pressed, needing to know her role in whatever lay ahead. She believes in you, Marcus. But she's also nervous about the backlash. You'll need to show them that you've changed. That you're worthy of their trust, Faith explained as she rifled through his closet, pulling out a crisp navy suit. One flicker of hope ignited something deep within him. Was he really capable of transforming? But before he could cling to that thought, another wave of anxiety washed over him. Suddenly, the phone buzzed on the table, slicing through the tension like a knife. It was a message from an unknown number. He grabbed it, heart racing. The message simply read, "I know what you did, and I'm coming for you." Marcus turned pale, the room spinning as the walls seemed to close in again. Faith paused, catching the look on his face. What is it? I don't know, Marcus stuttered, his mind flooded with horror. Behind the facade of hope and possibility, the shadows of his past loomed dangerously close. Was he really ready to confront them? As adrenaline coursed through his veins, he locked eyes with Faith, the weight of the unknown pressing heavily on his chest. He realized this was just the beginning. The real transformation demanded more than he had bargained for. What had he stepped into, and who was truly waiting for him in those depths? The answers felt sinister and intoxicating, an invitation and a threat wrapped together. And in that moment, he knew the stakes had risen. Now he faced more than a social reconstruction, he was about to plunge into a battle for his very life. What do we do next? Marcus whispered, feeling a shiver run down his spine. Faith's gaze met his. We find out who is behind that message, before it's too late. This was no longer just about recovery. It was a fight for survival, and he was running out of time. Would he rise to the challenge, or would the shadows consume him whole? Faith's gaze narrowed, catching the vivid glare of fear in Marcus's eyes. Her voice dropped to a whisper, heavy with urgency. We need to get you somewhere safe now. Marcus took a shaky breath, the adrenaline coursing through him making him feel alive and terrified all at once. Safe? Where was that anymore? He glanced around his penthouse, once a sanctuary, now an unsettling reminder of his fall from grace. Where can we go? His mind raced. Would he even be safe with Faith? Who could he trust? Just across town to my apartment, it's discreet, she urged, already moving toward the door while glancing back at him. Her confidence seemed like an anchor amidst the storm that was brewing inside him. He followed, reluctance pulling at his feet. Leaving the life he had built felt like stepping off a precipice. What about Zara? What if she's waiting for me? Zara is part of this too, Faith replied, opening the door and scanning the hallway. But right now, we need to protect you from whoever sent that message. The air outside felt thick, laden with the weight of uncertainty. Caution swirled around them as they made their way to Faith's car. Marcus slid into the passenger seat, the the leather wrapping him in a familiar embrace one he once reveled in. As they drove, Marcus's mind played tricks on him. Each shadow along the street felt like a threat, every passing car a potential enemy. "Faith," he stammered, "what if it's someone inside the company? Someone I trusted?" "Then we'll deal with that together," she assured him, her grip tightening on the wheel as she sped through the city streets. "But first, we gather information. We need your phone, there might be something there." His phone. The very device that had just sent chills down his spine. Reluctantly, he fished it from his pocket, a sense of foreboding settling in the pit of his stomach. With trembling hands, he handed it to her. Faith's fingers danced over the screen, urgency radiating from her. "I'm looking for recent messages, anything out of the ordinary." Marcus watched her intently, wondering if this fragile alliance could truly save him. Suddenly, Faith's brow furrowed. "Here," she said, revealing a string of messages that sent a flicker of dread through him. "Who is this Mark L.?" Marcus murmured, recognition dawning, followed by a cold shiver. Mark was an old connection, someone he thought was long gone from his life. Faith's jaw tightened. "He's trouble. And if he's reached out to you, it's not good, Marcus. We might need to reach out to Zara. She'll know how to help us navigate this." Marcus felt a surge of anger. "I want to drag her into my mess," he snapped, but the bitterness in his voice was quickly replaced by fear. "I can't put her in danger." "And what about you?" "This could be bigger than we think," she shot back fiercely, her eyes narrowing in determination. "If you want out of this alive, you need her." Marcus felt the weight of her words. The nagging question of whether he could truly rise again dangled precariously above him, like the fragile threads of his sanity. Once they reached Faith's apartment, the atmosphere shifted. It was smaller but full of life. Pictures of Faith with friends shared walls with reminders of better days. Marcus could feel the energy pulsing around them, but the tension remained. "Marcus," Faith said, her voice a low murmur, "we don't have much time. If Mark is involved, chances are he won't stop until he gets what he wants. What did he even have left?" Panic rose in his chest as ominous thoughts clawed at him. The message still lingered heavily in his mind. Who else knew? What more had he done that could come back to haunt him, and if Mark was indeed wrapped up in his fate, would he dangle a noose around Zara's neck, or drag him through the final depths of despair? He ran a hand through his hair, the walls closing in again. "What are we going to do?" "We make a plan. The first step is to confront this head-on." "Together," Faith replied, steeling her resolve as she reached for the phone again. As she dialed, the sense of foreboding swarmed around Marcus like dark clouds. On the horizon. Would he escape the jaws of disaster, or find himself further entwined in shadows he could no longer flee? With his heart racing, he realized the stakes were impossibly high. And any wrong move could seal both their fates. "Zara's the key," he whispered, just as Faith muttered something into the receiver, but what kind of game had he stepped back into? And would the truth come back to save him or shatter him completely? The phone rang, a shrill cry that shattered the oppressive silence hanging in the room. Each ring sent Marcus's heart racing. Faith's expression was a mask of determination, but the tension crackling between them felt like an uninvited guest. "Come on, pick up." Her voice was barely above a whisper as she pleaded with the universe, eyes fixed on the phone screen. Marcus could see her hand trembling slightly, the weight of their situation pressing down like a heavy fog. And then, with a crackle and a click, Zara's familiar voice came through. "Faith? Is everything okay?" "Zara, it's urgent," Faith said, urgency lacing her words. "I need you to meet us. Now. It's about Marcus." "What? Marcus? What happened?" The concern in Zara's voice cut through the noise, but it was the trembling on the other end that struck Marcus deeper than any blow. "Just we can't talk here. Get to my place, all right? And be careful. We don't know who's listening." Faith directed firmly, and Marcus could feel the heat rising in the pit of his stomach. If this got worse, would Zara become the next target? "I'll be there," Zara replied, a hint of fear layered under her resolute tone. With that, Faith hung up and turned her gaze to Marcus. "Now we wait," she said, the sharp line of her mouth betraying her own anxiety. A restless silence enveloped them, punctuated only by the distant sounds of the city. Marcus couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom that churned in him. What if Mark is already watching? He asked, desperation creeping into his voice. What if he's got people out there right now? Faith shot him a glare, but it softened. Then we'll have to outsmart him. We don't let him dictate the game. Her firm words tried to bolster his wavering confidence, but Marcus felt a knot tightening in his gut. Did they really stand a chance? Minutes dragged on, morphing into what felt like hours. He paced the room like a caged animal, his heartbeat thrumming in his ears. Each creak of the floor felt like a hammer striking against the fragile wall they were hiding behind. Finally, the sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway, a dull thud that ignited hope in Marcus's chest. Zara stepped through the door, silhouetted against the hallway light. Her eyes darted between them, searching for answers. Marcus's heart twisted in his chest. "Zara," she rushed over, her hand gripping his arm. "What is going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." Before he could respond, Faith interjected, "We've got bigger problems. Mark L is involved, and I think he's after Marcus." Zara's face paled instantly. "Mark? I thought he was out of the picture." "He's back, and he's tied into everything we've built," Marcus said, frustration simmering just below the surface. "I can't afford to drag you both into this nightmare." "Too late for that," Faith said sharply. "This is not just your mess anymore. We need a plan to counteract whatever he's plotting." They gathered around the small coffee table that bore the remnants of Faith's life, a stack of papers, an empty mug, and a few scattered photographs. The reality of their situation came crashing down with each passing second. There was no going back. "What do we know about Mark?" Zara asked, her tone shifting to detective mode, tapping into the fearless spirit that Marcus had witnessed before. "What's his angle? His last message was about a meeting." "He wants something from me," Marcus said, his voice growing steadier as the fear morphed into a flickering flame of resolve. "But I'm not playing his game. I want Faith's eyes locked onto Marcus's, unwavering. "We can't let fear guide us. We need to move first, act before Mark can." Their collective determination filled the room, a fragile yet palpable shield against the darkness closing in on them. But even as they strategized, the feeling of dread loomed larger, whispering warnings in his ear. "What if he knows where we are right now?" Marcus said, his voice barely above a frightened whisper. The three of them exchanged tense glances, and in that moment, they each understood, they were caught in a shifting landscape of deception and danger. "Then we need to leave," Faith declared, her eyes blazing with intensity. "No more hiding." As they swiftly gathered their things, Marcus felt the world closing in, shadows lurking just beyond the edges of his perception. This was just the beginning, and he had the sickening feeling that truths about his past and those he loved were about to unravel in unimaginable ways. What had he really stirred into motion? And would they survive the fallout, or would it tear them apart before they could find safety once more? The question hung in the air like a storm poised to break, and he could only brace himself for the impact. The air was thick with tension as Marcus, Faith, and Zara moved through the cramped apartment, gathering their belongings. Each shuffling sound echoed like a warning bell in Marcus's mind. The fear congealed into a palpable thing, sinking needles into his chest as he stole glances towards the door, half expecting Mark to burst in at any moment. "Do we have a destination?" Zara asked, her voice hushed but urgent, her dark eyes sharp and alert. Faith shook her head, her expression turning serious. "We can't head to my place, that much is clear. Maybe one of the old warehouses by the docks. No. Marcus interrupted, his heart pounding harder now. That's where you used to meet with the distributors. It's too obvious. Mark could be tracking those sites. Then what do you suggest? Zara challenged him. We can't just run off into the night with nowhere to go. It's like throwing ourselves into the lion's den. For a brief moment, a flicker of panic crossed Faith's face, but it was replaced with fierce determination. We need to figure out our next move without tipping him off. There's got to be a public space somewhere we can blend in while we figure this out. We could take the subway. Marcus's idea came out before he could think it through. It'll be crowded, and if we stay alert, we might avoid a confrontation. Zara nodded slowly, clearly weighing the risk. Fine, but we move now. No time to waste. You lead, Marcus. He swallowed hard, feeling the weight of their safety resting on his shoulders. As they slipped into the night, shadows seemed to stretch and twist around them, as if the darkness itself held secrets it was willing to reveal. They made their way through the city, the neon lights of the streets an eerie reminder of life going on while they were caught in the eye of a storm. The subway entrance loomed ahead, its stairs deep and foreboding. Marcus's pulse quickened, not knowing if it was the thrill of escape or the tightening grip of fear. Once inside, they pressed together in a corner, waiting for the train. Their bodies felt fused, the shared warmth a small comfort against the chill that brushed against them like a ghost. The subway screeched to a halt before them, doors sliding open with a mechanical hiss. They piled in, the rush of commuters enveloping them like a blanket, but Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were watching from the shadows. What if he's already here? He whispered, leaning close to Faith. Then we mingle, she replied softly, her gaze scanning the crowd. Stay close, and act normal. The train lurched forward, but Marcus could hardly focus. His mind raced with what Mark could be plotting. The thought of losing Zara or Faith, maybe both, tormented him. An image of Mark flashed through his mind, cold, calculating, unfazed by fear. Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging the car into darkness for a split second. Gasps filled the air, followed by the train grumbling to a halt. Panic surged through the crowd as people shifted uneasily. Stay calm, Zara urged, her voice quaking slightly. It was the tension in her eyes that sent a chill down Marcus's spine. He leaned close, whispering, "This isn't just a malfunction, is it? Mark could have something to do with it. Get ready to move." As the lights flickered back on, a figure stood at the far end of the car. Tall and imposing, Mark looked right at home in the chaos, a sadistic grin plastered on his face. The air crackled with danger. "Hello, Marcus," he drawled, his voice smooth but laced with menace. "Glad you could join me." In that instant, the world closed in. Marcus could feel the breath of the others stop, the collective realization of the trap snapping shut around them. Here was the confrontation they dreaded, the beginning of a battle where nothing was guaranteed. "What are you going to do?" Faith managed to shout over the cacophony of fear. Mark's smile widened, revealing sharp edges. "Oh, I think the question is, what will you do now?" The question hung in the air, heavy with impending doom, as the train lurched back into motion, carrying them deeper into a spiraling nightmare. The stakes had never been so high, and Marcus knew with absolute certainty they were about to find out just how dark Mark's game really was, what other treacheries awaited them in the underbelly of the city. The train jolted violently, throwing Marcus against the metal railing. Shouts erupted all around him, panic infiltrating the minds of every passenger like poison. The momentary flicker of darkness had given Mark the exact opportunity he needed. "You're all so predictable." Mark laughed, his eyes flaring with excitement. The sound of his mocking laughter sliced through the chaos, sending jolts of fear through Marcus. Faith and Zara clung tightly to him, their faces pale and drawn, yet resolved. "Get back!" Zara yelled, pushing forward. Determination ignited in her chest as she tried to shield Marcus behind her. With a chilling calm, Mark stepped closer, brushing aside the crowd as his eyes scanned for weaknesses. "Running 1T save you. You're trapped here with me," he said, a smirk twisting his lips. "I've planned this meticulously. You can't even begin to comprehend the lengths I've gone to." Marcus fired back, refusing to be intimidated. "Let them go, Mark. This is between us." His voice shook, but he stood firm. Ah, such bravery. But bravery without intelligence is just foolishness. Mark gestured towards the other passengers. "They're merely collateral damage, Marcus. And I have a capacity for chaos that you couldn't imagine." The tension surged, thick like molten metal. Mark tilted his head, his predatory gaze fixating on Faith. "You're a smart one. I like that about you. But even the smart ones make mistakes." Faith's spine straightened, her urgency countering Mark's cruel taunts. "You don't scare me," she said defiantly. "You're not as powerful as you think." For a moment, uncertainty flickered across Mark's face, an imperceptible crack in his facade. Maybe he wasn't invincible after all. But it was brief, his confidence returned like a wave. "Oh, Faith. You have no idea what I'm capable of." The train screeched violently as it veered around a corner, and for a fleeting moment, Marcus felt a wild hope. He could spring into action, find a way to push past Mark and escape this nightmare. But the movement stirred Marcus' focus, his eyes narrowing sharply. "Seems the train isn't the only thing that's about to get derailed." He reached into his jacket, producing a sleek device that glowed ominously, a remote control, perhaps. "Let's turn the pressure up a notch, shall we?" Marcus's heart raced as he exchanged frantic glances with Faith and Zara. They had to do something, but the overwhelming sensation of dread clamped around him, forcing his thoughts into a frantic spiral. "Marcus!" Zara shouted, gripping his arm tightly. "What do we do?" Marcus felt the weight of their lives resting on his shoulders. "We create a distraction." He was spurred on by an instinctual urgency, the need to protect the two women who represented his last anchor to normalcy. As he leaned forward, ready to confront Mark, the whole train shuddered once again, this time more violently. Lights flickered and alarms blared. People screamed, their panic evolving into chaos as Mark's smirk transformed into vicious anger. "Enough!" he howled, his voice booming above the crowd. "No more games." In that instant, the doors of the train blew open, seemingly driven by a force far greater than mechanical failure. A gust of wind rushed in, followed by a torrent of darkness and confusion. The emergency exit. Marcus took a deep breath, his heart thundering as adrenaline coursed through him. "Now! Everyone out!" He shoved Faith and Zara toward the exit and jumped after them, desperate limbs propelling his aching body into the unknown. But just as they thought they'd escaped the clutches of doom, a blinding light engulfed them, forcing them to shield their eyes. And then a piercing scream shattered through the air. "Mark! What are you doing?" Faith yelled, horror creeping into her voice. As the world around them spun, Marcus's mind raced with a single question: were they running towards freedom or further into Marcus' trap? Behind them, a sinister laugh echoed through the railway tunnel, taunting them as they rushed into darkness. What sinister game had Mark truly set into motion as the boundaries of danger blurred around them? The sudden rush of air battered Marcus and the others as they stumbled through the emergency exit. They barely made it out, grappling against the chill of the dusk, the underground tunnel stretching endlessly before them. His heart thundered in his chest, the echo of Mark's maniacal laughter ringing between the walls. They had escaped the train, but where the hell were they heading now? "Keep moving," he urged, glancing back at Faith and Zara. He could see their expressions flickering between relief and dread. "There's got to be a way out of this tunnel," Faith shouted, urgency lacing her tone. Fear ignited in her eyes, shifting from Mark to the dark abyss that lay before them. Every instinct told Marcus they needed to run, but equally pressing was the sense that they were not yet free. Zara, breathing heavily, turned her head, her voice a sharp whisper. What was that light? What happened back there? Marcus shook his head, irritation and fear mixing in his chest. I don't know. The train, it wasn't just mechanical. Faith's brow furrowed, her mind processing the possibilities. Mark did something. He has a plan. A moment passed, tension smoldering in the air, when suddenly, a rumble beneath their feet jolted them. The tunnel vibrated ominously, sending shockwaves of terror through Marcus. Run! He shouted again. The three of them sprinted deeper into the darkness, the sounds of their steps echoing back, a cruel reminder that Mark was close behind. But it wasn't just Mark they had to worry about. As they dashed down the damp corridor, the oppressive shadows began shifting and twisting, resembling moving figures just beyond their line of sight, leaving Marcus to wonder if they were truly alone. What if he activates whatever that was? Zara gasped between breaths. What if we're not safe? Marcus shot a quick glance at her. We can't think that way. Just focus on getting out. A sharp scream echoed behind them, ripping through the air like a warning siren. Marcus's heart skipped. It was just too close. The anguished voice felt like it was nestled deep in his gut, causing it to twist painfully. Panic surged anew, but they pressed on, propelled by desperation. The tunnel began to curve, and quickly, the walls dampened the sound of their footsteps, enveloping them in a heavy silence that thrummed ominously. The darkness started closing in tighter, walls likely to swallow them whole. Where are we? Faith whispered, dread wrapping around her tone. I think we're in a maintenance corridor, Marcus panted. If we can find stairs, we'll make it up to street level. But as they rounded another corner, they skidded to a halt. A barrier loomed ahead, an enormous metal door, rusted over and covered in grime, with the faint glint of a keypad. But as they approached, their escape looked bleak. What now? Zara's voice trembled, an electric thrumming in the air signaling that time was running out. Faith stepped closer, her eyes narrowing at the keypad. Someone must have set these up for a reason. Could they crack it in time? They had no choice. Marcus, all at once, felt the weight of the world on his shoulders again. We're going to have to try, he said, urgency bubbling in his throat. Suddenly, the emergency lights flickered to life, casting an eerie glow down the tunnel. The metallic clang of distant footsteps grew louder, reverberating like a heartbeat in the stillness. Marcus. Faith's voice was barely a whisper, laced with fear as she turned back, eyes wide. He's coming. The door was their last hope, but with every second that ticked by, the walls of their precarious situation tightened around them. It was now or never. Before he could think, Marcus rushed to the keypad and smashed in numbers at random, praying the locks would yield, praying they'd find a way out of this hellhole before Mark caught up to them. But as the final digit pressed down, the metal door began to rattle, a sound that echoed ominously, like the harbinger of doom. What awaited them on the other side? Would it lead to freedom, or have they walked straight into Mark's next trap? With time slipping away, the world felt perilously on the edge of disaster. The metal door shuddered, its rusty hinges creaking ominously. Marcus stepped back, heart in his throat, as the vibrations thrummed through the air, a palpable tension hanging thick like fog. Faith stood to his right, trembling, and Zara pressed close, her eyes darting between Marcus and the door. "What's happening?" Zara whispered, her voice barely above a breath, panic clawing at her words. I don't know." Marcus snapped, frustration burning inside him, every second creeping like an eternity. The shadows deepened around them, threatening to swallow any sense of hope that had flickered through their minds. "Maybe we should run," Faith murmured, her urgency spiking again. Before Marcus could respond, the door gave a heavy lurch, swinging partway open with a deafening groan that rattled the very bones of the tunnel. A narrow beam of light pierced through the darkness, illuminating the dust-filled air like an invitation or a warning. Is it safe? Zara peered into the crack, her voice trembling. What if it leads back to him? Marcus took a step toward the light, squinting through the narrow opening, but all he saw was a dimly lit passageway. We can't wait, we have to go. They shared a fleeting glance, the weight of shared fear pressing heavily against them. Go! He urged, charging forward as he pushed the door open wider, revealing the passage beyond. The air was cool, almost refreshing compared to the claustrophobic staleness of the tunnel. They hesitated only a moment before spilling into the new passage, urgent steps carrying them away from the horrors behind. As they moved deeper, Marcus' instinct screamed that something wasn't right. The whispering shadows from before returned, dancing at the edges of the light, and he could hear his heartbeat pounding in his ears, echoing the rhythm of their hurried pace. Wait, Faith whispered, suddenly still. What? His pulse raced as he scanned their surroundings. Listen. A low hum thrummed through the air, resonating from further down the corridor. It felt alive, the sound swelling as they continued forward. This isn't normal, Zara said, her eyes wide. What if Marcus cut her off, concentrating. The hum abruptly shifted, a swirling sound of mechanical whirs mixing with sharp hisses like steam escaping a boiling pot. Do you hear that? Faith's voice cracked, eyes darting nervously. Marcus felt the dread creep up his spine. Yeah. We're not alone. He moved cautiously, the whispers now transforming into indistinguishable murmurs, echoing coldly against the walls. Each step sent tremors surging through his body as the corridor widened into a cavernous chamber, a strange industrial expanse illuminated by flickering overhead lights. At the very center stood a massive console, panels aglow with chaotic data, as if some monstrous machine beneath them was just waking up. Cables snaked along the floor, disappearing into dark spaces at the edges of the room like tendrils of a monstrous beast. Marcus's mind raced. What the hell is this place? In the frantic glow, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a woman, her features sharp and stoic, a fierce glint in her eye amidst the chaos. You shouldn't be here, she warned, her voice echoing low, carrying a weight of authority. Who are you? Marcus demanded, his voice steady but the anxiety swelling within him. What have you done? Her lips curled into a knowing smile, and for a split second, he felt his stomach drop, the sensation of impending betrayal gnawing at him. Oh, you have no idea how deep this goes, she said cryptically, eyes dancing with secrets. As the console buzzed and blared with an urgent warning, Marcus understood they had stumbled into something far more sinister than escape from Mark. The room shuddered, lights flickering wildly as alarms began blaring, drowning out the hum as a monstrous shadow loomed over them. Get back! He shouted, instinctively gripping the others, but the darkness was already wrapping around them, folding in tightly. What had they walked into? Would they destroy everything once and for all, or unleash something they couldn't control? A chilling laugh echoed from the recesses of the chamber, unmistakably Marcus' sound, sending a shockwave of dread through the air. Marcus could hardly breathe now, a feeling of impending doom coursing through him. What was the true cost of their escape? Would they emerge into light or plunge deeper into chaos? Marcus's heart raced, his mind flickering through a million possibilities all at once. He scanned the room, searching for an exit, a weapon, anything that would allow them to escape the encroaching dread of Mark's presence. The walls pulsed faintly as if responding to the chaos, the shadows elongating and twisting in the flickering light. Who are you? Faith managed to squeak out, pressing back against a console, her face pale with fear. The woman stepped toward them, her demeanor calm, electric with hidden power. My name is Alara, she said, her voice like smooth stones in a rushing river, cool and haunting. And you are in something far beyond your comprehension. Stop! Marcus barked, gripping Faith's arm, trying to center himself. What do you mean? What's happening? Alara's eyes sparked with a mixture of amusement and pity, as if they were children peeking into a world meant for adults. The shadows are just a part of the machinery. You walk among the echoes of a colossal secret, one that holds the power to reshape everything you know. Zara edged toward Marcus, her voice quaking. What secret? Where's Mark? At the mention of Mark, the console erupted into life, screens flashing words and images faster than he could register. It felt like a trap snapping shut, each word an electric shock that sparked panic. Mark is no longer who you thought he was, Ilara said, her gaze unwavering. He has transformed, a vessel for something far darker. He is connected to this realm in a way that transcends mere humanity. A guttural laugh echoed again, creeping from the dark corners, sending chills racing down Marcus's spine. You think you can escape me? Marcus' voice taunted, his shadow stretching impossibly long across the room. The lights flickered violently, casting an assortment of shapes, terrifying monsters, looming figures, and shifting facades. What did you do to him? Marcus shouted, desperation coating his words. Ilara turned her piercing gaze back to Marcus, a strange mix of respect and sadness in her eyes. He was never just a man, she said slowly, but a vessel for ambition, greed, and now desperation. This place amplifies everything he is. Heart pounding, Marcus took a step closer to Ilara. We need to fight him. We can't let him win. No, that's not how it works. She shook her head. To fight him is to fight against yourself. The real battle is in understanding that every shadow is a reflection of a deeper truth. As the alarms blared a primal warning, electricity crackled around the room, and Marcus felt a surge of power course through him. The console erupted in sparks, sending arcs of light dancing across the chamber. He felt the energy beckon to him, pulling at something primal inside, something he could no longer deny. Stop! Ilara shouted, her tone urgent. If you tap into it without understanding, you could release forces you can't comprehend. The dark corners of the chamber started to swell, shadows boiling and swirling around like a storm. Marcus felt the tug at his being, raw and untamed. He had to act, and fast. Run! He bellowed suddenly, the command rushing out of him as the shadows lunged outward, trying to consume them. They turned, sprinting toward the only way out, the flickering passageway. But the air was thickening, the shadows stretching, curling around their ankles, a desperate attempt to reclaim what belonged to the darkness. Don't look back! He shouted, urging his friends on. Their breaths came in ragged gasps as they barreled down the corridor. The hum changed again, sharper now, and Marcus felt a sudden pulse beneath his feet, a heartbeat of something ancient and powerful. Was it the machine? Was it Mark? Or the very darkness they were trying to escape? Keep moving! Faith screamed, her eyes wide with panic behind him, but just as they neared the exit, the floor heaved. A blinding flash cut through the air, and an unearthly roar reverberated, shaking the very foundations. Marcus! Zara shrieked as the shadows wrapped tighter around them, threatening to pull them back into the churning darkness. With a deep breath, he summoned every ounce of willpower he could muster. We are not going back! He yelled, refusing to let fear consume him, and then, just as the pull grew insistent, he found himself locked in a battle of wills against whatever it was trying to claim them. Would they escape the malevolent grip of Mark and whatever was lurking in the depths? Or had they become entwined in a struggle far beyond anything they could control? The darkness roared, and as the pull reached its peak, he braced for the unimaginable. The blinding flash receded, swallowed by the terrible roar that echoed through the chamber. The shadows seemed to pulsate alive, and Marcus felt their weight pressing down on him like 1,000 chains. The floor tremored beneath his feet, and he could see the spiral of darkness trying to grip him and the others tighter, pulling them toward some shadowy oblivion. Marcus! Zara's voice screeched with a blend of terror and defiance. We need to get out. Now! Faith, beside her, was pulling at Marcus's arm, her expression a storm of panic and determination. With each heartbeat, Marcus could feel the darkness tightening, a predatory whisper clawing at his spirit, urging him to yield to the despair. But within that despair bloomed something else, an unyielding resolve. He could not let Mark win. Not today. Not ever. Hold on to me. Marcus shouted as he squeezed his eyes shut, channeling all his strength. With a primal scream echoing from the depths of his being, he drove his thoughts forward, piercing through the suffocating darkness. The corridor pulsed in response, thrumming like a heart racing back to life, the shadows swirling violently at his feet. Marcus felt it then. The darkness wasn't just a force to overcome, it was alive, whispering secrets, revealing truths buried deep within the chaos of his tumultuous mind. He was drawn to it yet revolted by it. Just as they leapt forward, the shadows lunged at them, wrapping around their legs, tugging them back into the swirling unknown. Faith and Zara stumbled, losing their anchor of hope. But Marcus, with a flicker of purpose, yelled, "Together!" Gripping their hands tightly, he surged forward, the bond between them lighting a spark that ignited against the encroaching void. "We are more than shadows. We are the light," he bellowed, every ounce of conviction forcing its way through. For a moment, everything froze. The shadows hesitated, as if caught off guard by this surge of defiance, and then, like a wave crashing against the shore, the force released them. They barreled toward the flickering light at the end of the corridor, the silhouettes of pure energy stretching toward that exit, becoming a blinding beacon guiding them out of darkness. Once they burst through the passage, a deafening silence enveloped them, leaving echoes of the chaos behind. They tumbled into a breath of fresh air, the cool wind sweeping over their skin, fragrant with freedom and the promise of a new dawn. The chaos subsided. The distant roar of sirens faded into amorphous sounds transformed by space and distance. They collapsed onto a patch of grass under a canopy of stars, battered but alive. "What just happened?" Zara murmured, disbelief etching her features as she caught her breath. "I don't know, but whatever Mark unleashed is still out there," Aith responded, her voice firm yet tinged with uncertainty. The moment hung between them. The enormity of their escape lay thick in the air, raw fear intertwining with a glimmer of hope. Marcus took a deep breath, letting the reality wash over him, feeling the beating hearts of his friends next to him. "We need to be ready," he said, his voice reverberating with a quiet strength. "Mark's not done with us." Suddenly, a thought stirred within him, a realization that surged higher than the fear that had clawed at him for so long. "We can't keep running. We need to confront him. All this chaos? It means he wants something." The shadows were trying to obscure the truth. His heart raced with renewed determination. To defeat him, we must untangle those threads. Faith looked at him, eyes ablaze with understanding. "Then it's time to gather the pieces and find out just how deep this goes," she asserted, her voice shoring up the newfound unity as Zara nodded in solidarity. "Together," Zara breathed softly, inching closer. "Yes. Together," Marcus affirmed, his chest swelling with purpose. As they began formulating their plan, a determination blossomed around them. The darkness had tested them, but it would not own them. They would stand united, harnessing the power of their past to forge a new future. The shadows whispered their truths, and the night sky above shimmered, glittering with endless possibilities as the trio shared a quiet look of resolve. It was just the beginning, but they had each other, and together, they would face whatever darkness awaited. Now is your turn to join this adventure. You need to subscribe immediately to stay updated on the next part of this gripping story. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see what happens next. And smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories. We want to hear your reactions. This is the moment to show your support and become part of this incredible journey.